So, good afternoon, everyone. This is Pam Lippitt from the Hill Street Group, and I work with companies on their messaging and marketing opportunities. And during this lovely time of the pandemic, I thought I would share with you some information from the companies I work with and the companies I support. So today we have joining us Sheryl Alpern from Lead Driving School, and she'll be talking today about a little bit about Lead Driving School, which is an independent small business here in Southeast Michigan, as well as what driving schools need to do during the COVID-19 pandemic, because there's separate rules through the state of what we need to do to be safe and secure with our kids. And then this specific program is for parents who will be in the passenger seat while their kids are taking the wheel, and give some tips on how to make your student the best driver. So here we go. I want to introduce Sheryl, and she'll tell you a little bit about herself and the business.
Sheryl Alpern. Lead Driving School was started by my father. His first name is Lee, which is how I got the name of Lead Driving School. He started in 1968. I think we are the oldest independent driving school in the state of Michigan. I've been working for Lead Driving School since 2001, and in 2007, my father made me president, which means I got to run the scheduling, the marketing, and things like that. But it's nice to be second generation, keeping my father's legacy alive, because Lead Driving School has a great reputation and still does for teaching defensive driving to teenagers in the most defensive, safe way.
So the company actually started, your dad was a high school teacher and then started the driver's ed.
Yeah, he was teaching at Thurston High School.
Right.
For just a tiny bit for somebody else. And then one day he came home with a car that says Lead Driving School. We're like, oh, okay then.
Good. He was an entrepreneur.
Yes.
He didn't know that was his title. So that was in 1968.
Yeah.
So how many students could you possibly, everywhere you look on the road, you must see someone taught by Lead Driving School.
Right. Well, I would say since 2010, 2007, we must have done a minimum between 300 to 500 kids, a mix between segment 1 and segment 2. So tens of thousands, I would think, at this point.
Wow. So, I know safety and defensive driving is your mantra. So it's good to know that we've got so many defensive drivers here on the school.
Yeah, we're on second and third generation. And it's kind of nice because sometimes I'll get a parent, I took from your father when he was in Royal Oak. I'm like, oh my God, so did I.
It's very funny. So, now we take a deep breath and we're in the middle of the pandemic. So how do you work with the state to figure out what can be done and how you're doing?
That's a good question. The frustrating thing right now is where we're going. Back in March, they shut everybody down, the state did, because of the COVID-19. And then they allowed us only in April to do online segment 1 and segment 2. The segment 1, no driving. Now, segment 1 that happened in April, the driving is going to end by the end of June. Now, a lot of us have a class coming up late March. My next segment 2 looks like it's going to be March 26th, and may have to be gone to the 28th. We don't know. It's a day by day. I email the state, when are we doing it, and they just don't know. But it looks from what the governor's saying, the 28th will be our go back to work day, not online. The state does not do online, and after doing a couple classes, I could see why. It's much more a benefit for the kid and the teenager and the teacher face to face in the classroom, no doubt.
I heard in Georgia that kids don't have to take their actual driver's test. They can just get on the road when the timing is up.
I hope they stay in Georgia. Don't drive here because you're going to irritate the heck out of me. You know what? Here's the thing. If they can't wait an extra 6 months, seriously, I don't know anybody that, I'm sure parents are like, okay, fine, you got your license, what have you. But, there should be that final, like, can you do it? Because when you take that road test, you're going to be nervous. You know what? You're going to be nervous when you're driving in snow or in Georgia, maybe rain or what have you. Yeah, you need to make sure you can do that, the road test. So,
That's a good point. I like that we're staying a little bit safer up here in Michigan.
Yeah, I don't think any governor in Michigan would ever allow that.
No, I don't either. So tell me a little bit about what the requirements are so that a parent can get in the passenger seat when the teenager gets in the.
Most of the time before they come here, somebody will take a kid to a parking lot. If you're going to do that, I recommend OCC. It's a lot bigger, which is fine. You don't have to, because that's our job to teach. In segment 1, you have to be 14, 8 months to take it. To get your level 1 license, you have to be 14, 9 months. The state of Michigan allows me to give a teenager what they call a pink certificate, because it's pink. And it allows you, after 5 behind the wheel in 2 classrooms, to drive with your parent. My biggest issue is I don't think parents know how to coach. I think the biggest thing I've always said to people is, like, you want to drive like you want your kids to drive. And so teaching them to drive with your knees, or, the one hand, or not stopping at a stop sign correctly, I think that bothers me the most. But we want that child, the teenager and the parent, to get the communication set. Because if you don't know what to expect, you're going to have this extremely combustive situation in the car. So for instance, the kid, your teenager, don't tell your parent how to drive, because you don't. And parent, you can't read their mind. You have to coach every little thing. Are you looking in the rearview mirror before you brake? Are you looking both ways? It has to be so detailed in the coaching, so that way everything in the car is calmer.
That's interesting. I know one time when I was driving with you, one of the things you said to me that I'll never forget is I hooked my hand like under the wheel. Yeah. And you said that's the best way to have a broken arm in an accident.
The airbag, first of all, I don't think you're going to recover the wheel. The reason you want to do hand over hand, push, pull, and let it slide through is because the control you have on snow and ice and rain. But when you if you drive with that one hand and go like this, and the airbag goes off, you're going to break your wrist. As a parent, you drive that way, fine. I'm not going to, whatever. But when you have your teenager in the car, you've got to show them the right way. Use 2 hands. Don't be on the phone. Don't FaceTime. Signal. Check your mirror. Drive the way you want your kids to drive.
I think that, tell me what makes you unique in your teaching.
I take each teenager and teach them, only them. When I do the classroom, the first thing I'll say is, Julie, you might drive one way, I like it. And Joe, if you're observing, I look for something different because I'm looking for what Joe can give me. So you can't compare drivers. You have to take each student and teach that student. It's not cookie cutter. What happens with one kid is not going to happen for the other kid. I also make sure, if let's say a kid is on the spectrum or anxiety or whatever, if they tell me, then I will teach a little differently. I had a kid one time, a couple of summers ago, their parents did not tell me he was on the spectrum. So I said to him, okay, signal, check your mirrors, and your blind spot in that order. He couldn't do it. It was too fast for him. So I learned how to do the lane changes with him. For instance, I took him out when there's like virtually no traffic, so we can do it slower. Check your signal, check your mirrors, look over your shoulder. So we're not rushed. So I didn't do it with him in traffic. But I need to know if a kid has an issue so I can teach them what's best for them.
Well, that's really important.
Yeah, I think so.
I know that there's a lot of, you get a lot of referrals. Of your business, what percentage do you think are referrals?
Well, quite a bit. The kids at North Farmington know me. They've known my dad. Now they know me. And I think what stands out for me is I really like the connection of the teenagers. I also, I can make them laugh and have sometimes. Remember the good times you had, the things that you remember are things in which you felt you had a good time. Not saying we're going to party, but if I make you laugh once, or if I make the class enjoyable, I think you're going to remember it more. I also, in the classroom, I have a tendency, when I ask questions, if you're not paying attention, you're the kid I'm asking the question to. So I want to make sure you're paying attention to my lecture.
And then talk about the classrooms a little. What's going to change when we get back to semi-real life?
Well, where I teach right now at Anti-Christian Church, we're going to use the basement, and we're going to have the social distancing. It's big enough, so huge. We're behind the wheel. We're taking the teenager's temperature before they get in the car. The teenager's going to have to use gloves. I will have gloves. I cannot have a teenager use a mask because if you've ever used a mask with glasses, you know it fogs up here and you can't drive that way. But we're going to be able to clean the doors down. We're going to use antiseptic and everything that's going to be touched. So we're going to try and make it as safe for the teenager and as well as the teacher.
And kids who don't wear glasses, they'll have the option to wear masks.
Yeah, they have the option, but if you're wearing glasses, it's going to fog up your lenses, and we don't want that happening.
No, we don't. Maybe in the parking lot when there's no other kids. So it's interesting. So for parents taking their kids out now, the roads aren't very busy. So it seems to me that that's a great time to teach. But tell me a little bit about like how they need to prepare their teenagers for when the roads are back to normal.
Well, what I would do if your teenager has their level 1 license or still in their pink certificate, do the expressway. Do the expressway. Do the roundabouts. And remember, you have to signal your exit. You have to signal your exit. You've got to tell people what you're doing. So you want to practice the roundabouts because obviously it's going to be a lot easier. You want to do a lot of lane changes, U-turns, parking, everything. But the thing that it's going to be easiest right now is the freeway or expressway and the roundabouts. Those are the two things that are going to be easier to do now.
Well, that's a good, I think doing the roundabouts, I may go practice them more because they're not my favorite thing either. So, and then what do you advise with, right, when we got our licenses, there were no rules about how many kids have to be in the car.
Well, before you do that, that's because where I grew up in Oak Park. We literally just drove Oak Park and Southfield. If you look at kids now, I mean, my kids in Farmington Hills, they're driving to Wixom for hockey or skating, or I have one kid that goes to Birmingham for gymnastics. And so that's why you have more kids in the car. So I think that's why the regulations are there. But on your level 1 license, you can only drive an approved driver, 21 or older. Your parent has to know who you're driving with, kids, teenagers, because they are legally responsible for you. On your level 2 license, those are restrictions in which, with the exception of a sibling and a registered event like school, church, sports, you only have one additional youthful passenger unless you're going to one of those events. But let me tell you something. If you're going, let's say you're going to North's football team and it gets out at 7 and you've got 3 kids in the car, one of them has to go home immediately if you want to go out for food or do anything else, because after that game, it's no longer a sanctioned event. Only one kid in the car, one passenger.
Oh, so they can drive to an event like that with more. They just can't be out and about with more.
Correct.
I guess that makes sense.
They can't drive between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. When a ticket is written, it's written and it knows the time, what's going on. So we want these teenagers to be off between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. because some of the bad stuff happens then. We don't want them in it. Yeah.
The bad stuff can happen to a young driver all the time. So it can happen to all of us. So we just need to have a little more patience and do a better job.
And think about the distractions. I mean, as a parent, I would tell you no phone. I would say when your teenager's driving, no radio. When someone talks to you, whether it's the radio.
You mean no phone for the parent as well as the student.
Yeah. Because when someone talks to you, whether it's the radio or other person, your brain decreases 40%. You can't afford that. So when you're a parent and your kid's driving on your level 1 license, no music right away. Really, no music right away.
And no phone. And certainly no phone.
Yeah, no phone.
I assume that means texting too.
Yeah. Phone means phone. Nothing.
No, it makes sense. I mean, we're not talking about like learning how to bowl, and if you don't do a good job, you can move on to something else.
You could die.
You're not going to hurt someone. So this is
the number 1 killer of teenagers or car crashes. The number 1. Look it up. The number 1
Wow.
And when you talk about distractions and speeding, these are things that the kids can control. But again, the parent needs to give them a good base to work off of.
So it really is, it seems like more than anything, the parent is the role model.
I only get them for 6 lessons. That's all I get them is for 6 lessons. That's it.
Wow.
For the parents.
Okay. And then they're out and about, so they better know what they're doing. I don't think our question piece is working, or at least I can't find it. Do you see anyone asking questions?
On the chat, no, I don't. But, you know, after watching this, you can always, the driving school number, 932-248-932-5333. You can always text and ask a question. I think the difference between segment 1 and segment 2 causes confusion. But this, for me, is getting to the parent. This, for me, is telling you as a parent, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So as you're coming to a stop, look in the rearview mirror. Is it safe? Ask your teenager, do you see that stop sign? Do you see the yield sign? Ask your teenager, what color is the light? What you're doing for them is getting their eyes to move. You want to start developing a visual search pattern. As you come to a light, is the walk or do not walk sign that? These are the things that I do that I want the kids to know help you become a defensive driver. Keep your eyes moving and looking for the right identifiers.
That's really important. And then I think I know you said when we talked before, between level 1 and level 2, there's a certain amount of hours someone has to drive, and how do they keep track of that?
For segment 2, you've had to have your level 1 license for a minimum of 90 days. The date is on the very top of that license, and driven 30 hours, 2 of that to be at night. Majority of my kids use Road Ready. It's a download. To take your road test, you'd have to have your level 1 license for a minimum of 180 days, which includes the 90, drive 50 hours, 10 at night, which includes a 30 and 2. Realistically, you could take your road test before your 16th birthday. You just take it till your 16th birthday.
So, you know, this is being recorded, and it's going to be up later and on your website as well as here on Facebook. So if people have questions, you can put questions in the comments section.
Absolutely.
And we'll be following that and getting back to you as soon as they come in. I'll also be listing some shortcuts. Talk to me before we end. We have about 5 more minutes. So talk to me about the tools on the state of Michigan.
All right, the state of Michigan, if you go to michigan.gov/SOS, go to teenage driver, go to they've got whatever driver must know, which honestly, parents, it wouldn't kill you. It would be really beneficial for you to brush up on the laws. But there's also a parent guide that helps you as well. But it's so hard to teach a teenager to drive. I get that. It gets very frustrating. I get that. But these books will help.
That's great. And, it's a great time for parents to be with their kids in the car alone. Mm-hmm. And it gives you an opportunity to talk in general. And right now, I think kids have a lot to talk about.
The parent picks them up from segment 1 or segment 2, and the parent's on the phone. I'm thinking, no, your kid's locked in the car. Talk to them.
You need to put up stand there with like a sandwich board. This is a great time to chat with your child.
I get the kid, and I don't get the answer like parents get because I'm not the parent. But the most important thing a parent can do is say out loud every little thing that you can think they need to do for a stop sign, a turn, signal 100 feet before their turn. You're going up the driveway, signal. When you're parking, signal. There's so many things that I think people don't do anymore. A red flashing light. I did a parent meeting a while ago, and many parents forgot that a red flashing light is the same as the stop sign. Well, if your teenager runs through that red flashing light, they failed the road test.
Right. Well, and that's, I think, the difference. If you're the age of the parents and you get pulled over by the police, you get a ticket, a warning, it costs you some dollars. But if a student or a new driver gets pulled over for the exact same thing, they may lose their license.
Well, depending on what they've done. But the thing is, when you get your first ticket, your parents are not going to throw you a party. woohoo, they're not going to be real happy with you.
Right. It also affects your insurance.
Yeah, I mean, you know, or if you get into an accident, trust me, it's not going to be pretty, especially if your parents pay for the car. If they take those keys away because you did something that was unsafe, you deserve to have the car taken away for a while. The car's a killing machine. I love driving. I want them to love driving, but we still have to take it seriously.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I mean, thank God I've never really caused an accident, though I've been in big accidents. And it's scary enough when you're the recipient of an accident.
I was, yeah.
Yeah. The thought that you could be the person also to have to carry the guilt of causing the accident isn't worth it. It's certainly worth it for the parents to put a few more hours into that drive time.
And the parents have to remember that the brain isn't fully developed in mid-20s. It's sort of organic that they make bad mistakes. Like I've got kids who will say to me, "Oh, I've been on my cell phone at 3 a.m. for a group chat." And I'll say, "Would your parents want you to do that?" No.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
that's good. Thank you.
well, don't do it in the car for sure. All right. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
No, I just find if anybody has any questions, just feel free to give us a call. And I think we might do more of these in the future.
Yeah. And you know, if somebody out there watching has some idea of an actual session they would like to see, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Yeah.
So just let us know. And in the meantime, thank you so much, Sheryl, for
Thank you,
joining us
Pam.
today.
I
That's
appreciate
Sheryl Alpern of owner of Lee Driving School. And again, I'm Pam Lippitt from the Hill Street Group. And we thank you for being with us today.
Drive carefully. Thank you. Bye-bye.